everybody, welcome to Porn Free Millennial. I'm your host Mac, and today we're going to talk about 3 keys to getting to 100 days of sobriety from porn, from also masturbation if that's something that you're struggling with. And I'm going to go ahead and share my sobriety goal that I reached not too long ago. Is last Tuesday, March 12th. I hit 100 days sober from porn and from masturbation. Yay! So pretty excited about it. You know, at the end of the day, it's a day-by-day thing for me. But I think milestones are important to show you, how much you've grown, since that day one, the day like right after your relapse where you had a reset, to the day you're at when you hit 100. It's just such a big difference in how you feel, your outlook on life, what you've been doing, the goals that you've been hitting, and the new goals that you want to achieve on the horizon that you set for yourself. So it's a really exciting time, and I thought I'd use this podcast, this video today to talk about, 3 things that really helped me out and helped me get there. So you might notice if you're watching on video, I did want to mention this, just disclaimer, I do have some crazy hair going on right now. I do plan on growing out my hair just to see how long it goes. I'm 32 now. I thought might as well just do it while I can, grow this hair out. So if you're listening, I've got kind of a crazy hairdo with like a kind of a bandana thing on. This is kind of my look that I do when I'm around and cleaning, the RV, the camper. So I thought I'd just, wear it today and try it out. So you guys will have to let me know what you think about the crazy long hair. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share 3 keys for you to getting to 100 days sober. And this is from my personal experience. I think this is also something that I've just noticed, like working with other people that have, met similar milestones, working with mentors, people that have had long-lasting sobriety. I think these 3 things are super important, and they're kind of in order a little bit too. So number 1, I think one of the biggest components, if not like the biggest, is really like, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to live a life without porn, without masturbation? If that's something that you're looping into your sobriety, I loop in masturbation and porn kind of together. They have this symbiotic relationship. So for me, like if I'm masturbating, it's basically like there has to be porn there as well, and like vice versa. So I view them pretty much as the same thing for me. I just want to stay clean on both ends. But maybe for you it's porn, masturbation, both. I'm going to talk about it through the lens of both porn and masturbation, because that's just my journey. But I think you can use these keys for both, really. And this is like for a lot of things in life like that we have to overcome. I think we need to have a why, a sense of purpose, something that drives us, something that's bigger than us, that when, we have no fuel left in the tank, we don't want to do it anymore, we want to give up. Our why is there as that foundation that's really like holding the house together. It's really what you can build the house on as well. If you're starting over, if you're trying to go back to the drawing boards and say like, what do I need to do this time to really make it, to really get ahead, to be sober and to make it last? I think you need to have a really strong why. It has to be at the core of your sobriety, of your purpose. Like, why are you doing this? It has to be for you too. Start with you. I think that's a really important thing that I initially learned is I think a lot of people fail at this and fall for this, like where you want to make your why all about somebody else. Like, I'm doing this because, like my wife wants me to. My wife told me, if I don't go, get this fixed, then she's going to leave me, or my girlfriend or whatnot. And I feel like whenever I hear that why, just to be blunt, it's kind of a BS excuse. We're really deflecting and saying, hey, it's more because they want me to do this, not because I really want to do it. And if you are there, it might just be a sign that you're not really ready to let go yet. You're not really ready to let go this part of your life. And that might be something that you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper into. Like, why do you still need this thing? Why do you need porn in your life? Why do you need masturbation in your life? Like what need is it filling for you? And you have to ask yourself, is it healthy? Is it really serving you a purpose? If there's all these things in your life that are kind of crashing and you're feeling like you can't really get started, you're going to have to look at that and say, do I really need this in my life? And for everyone, it's a little bit different. I think for me, like my big why, why I'm doing this is so that I can live in harmony with myself, so that I can be the same person inside that I'm projecting outside to you, to others. The person I look in the mirror, I can look that person straight in the eye and know that I'm being true to myself. I know that I'm being honest, know that I'm living in integrity. I think porn has like just ruined so many things in my life that I had going, and I had to pick up the pieces. And I think another part, and this is now moving from me, like my purpose, my why, to where I want to live in harmony with myself. To broaden that out, also my why is to live by example, to be a beacon of light to other people, like yourself if you're watching this, to show you, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. If I can hit 100 days sobriety, you can. And if I can turn my life around, get it in the right direction, and have healthy relationships, and feel good about what I'm doing, and feel good about the life that I'm living, you can do it too. And I think with all the pain that porn caused me, I feel like I have like a duty, like a purpose to take that pain, take that shame, take that guilt, and harness it and use that as fuel for my recovery, to live a great life, to live a fulfilled life, and to also pass that on to other people that I'm in contact with, either online, in person, help them realize and have that light bulb moment for them, to where they realize I can live a life without porn as well. I can live a porn-free life. I can live a life free of masturbation. I don't have to have these shackles that hold me down, to where I have to do this in order to get some good sleep, or I have to do this to be less stressed. At the end of the day, it's like using a credit card and you're just accruing this debt, and the interest is heavy. And eventually we have to pay it off. And that's the way that I look at it. So I think you got to have a strong why. Really take some time. It might be a process to where you might have to iterate. You might come up with a why and then, wake up and say, that's kind of crap, and then rewrite it. But it really should be something that fires you up. It really should be something too, like if you tell somebody that that you trust, that, kind of knows about what you're struggling with. If you tell them your why and they're like nodding their head and they're saying, yeah, that sounds pretty dang good. Like that sounds, that sounds like this is something that you would really be fired up about. That's probably a good sign, right? Now, if you're telling someone that about this why, and they're kind of like, where did this come from? That might be an opportunity for you to rewrite it, to think about it deeply, because you really need this thing to be your compass. When you're lost, when it's dark outside, this needs to be your light. This needs to be your guiding force. When you don't want to do it anymore, you got to come back to your why and reflect on it. And if your why is strong enough, it's going to help you through the storms. One kind of a parable little story that I thought was kind of interesting, that my mentor and podcaster of the Finding Traction podcast, Werner Tomke, brought up. And I think it was in our group discussion last week, because I do this 52-week program with him and some other guys. He was talking about the doldrums. This is actually his last podcast that he did. It was about, I think, recovery doldrums. And some days we have off days. Some days he kind of talked about doldrums and what it means. And it's a sailing term, I believe, to where like there's no winds for the trade winds typically that you would rely upon for your journey. There's no winds to pick up your sails and to propel you forward. And the doldrums, it's kind of like now when we think about it, like in common era and how we talk about that term, it's kind of like if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling melancholy. And I mean, I was actually kind of going through that a little bit, like today, a little bit over the weekend too, just kind of felt a little bit off. Felt like the wind wasn't quite picking up my sails. But the thing to remember is keep your sails up. The wind will come. Put yourself in a good position so that when those doldrums pass, the wind comes up, you're in the ship. You didn't abandon ship. You didn't lose hope. you're there. You just got to be patient sometimes. There's going to be some days where it's just not quite there. And your why is like your boat. Like you got to stay in the boat. You got to keep your sails up so that when the wind comes, you're on your way. You're back going the way that you want, the right path. You've got the compass guiding you, all of that. So hopefully that analogy made sense. End of the day, though, you got to have a really strong why. So that's number one. Number two, you've got to have consistent accountability, and you have to have a strong sense of community. So these two, I think, go hand in hand. So accountability is basically like, okay, you got this why now. It's a good why. You're fired up, but your why is going to go nowhere if you don't have a way to hold yourself accountable to it. So holding yourself accountable is like, what are the methods to where by a day-by-day basis, you're setting yourself up for success? In what ways are you holding yourself accountable? So if you're not having a good recovery day, you're edging a lot, and edging means like you're kind of on the edge of sobriety. Might be kind of doom scrolling on pages that aren't quite, I guess like healthy for sobriety, right? And I think we all know what those are. It might just be doom scrolling on social media. It might not even be anything bad, but you're just kind of mindlessly scrolling through things. It could be you're like checking out somebody at the gym way too long. You're kind of like looking for some stimulation outside of healthy activities. It could be a lot of different things, but how can you hold yourself accountable to that? How can you say, hey, today wasn't like the strongest day. I'm going to do better tomorrow, and this is how I'm going to do it. Accountability is incredibly important. Now you can have like accountability software on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop. That's really important. Also, you can have an accountability partner, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit. So my little brother and I actually did a podcast as a few podcasts ago about brotherhood. Really good. It was really cool to talk to my little brother. Love him to death. Best friend. He's my accountability partner. So we actually started our accountability journey a little over a year ago. And what we do is we communicate through voice memos to each other every day around noon. So we kind of have set time. Sometimes, work gets busy and we might be a little bit late, but typically it's most of the time around noon. And it'll be probably about I'd say normally it's about like a 5 to 10 minute voice memo. And what we do is we do a fast check-in. So it's an acronym. So F stands for how you're feeling. So how are you feeling today? A stands for active commitments. So what are your active commitments? Like what are things that you're committed to that are healthy? So typically with active commitments, you want to look at 4 different areas. So you've got your passions, like what are you passionate about? Like what are your passion projects? You have your physical health. So how's your physical health doing? Like that's a huge part of your recovery is like, how are you actually feeling? How are you sleeping? How are you eating? Are you working out? Are you feeling like healthy? Or are you kind of feeling crappy? Number 3 is like how are your relationships? So that could be like, how are you and your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your friends? What are you doing in that day or that week to where you're really focusing on your relationships? That could be with parents, anybody, relationships with people. And number 4 is your spiritual health. So spiritual health is like, how are you doing with God? How are you doing with your faith? Typically, and this is like the first step in 12-step groups. There's 12-step for Porn Addicts Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, a lot of that. The first step's like giving it up to a higher power and say, I'm not in control. I'm not in control. I need help. I need help from something or someone higher than me. So if you're not really religious, you're not really spiritual, it's something just to consider if you're really struggling with this and you can't find any other options. I mean, I'm a Christian. God's number one has helped me through this all, my divorce, this addiction with porn, my belief in God, my faith in God, and that I'm forgiven for these sins, and that I accept him into my life and that I want him to help guide me has helped me out so much. It's relieved so much pressure. Because when we don't put, if we're just putting ourselves on that pedestal, all the pressure, all the force goes right onto us, right onto our shoulders. When we have God in our life, we can lean on him in these moments of darkness, and he can help guide us. So spiritual health is another thing. So again, active commitments. I want you to think of your physical health, your spiritual health, your relationships, and your passions. 4 really important things to check in on every day, every other day, whatever you set up with your accountability partner, these are things that you got to talk about. And if you're not investing properly in those things, your recovery is not going to be as smooth. Okay, so we got F is for feelings. A is for active commitments. Then you got S is for slips, sobriety. So slips would be like if you're edging, kind of like we were talking about earlier. Edging is like being on the edge of sobriety. So I like to use a stoplight model. Stoplight would be like green light, you're doing really well. Yellow light, you're like edging. You're doing some questionable behavior. You're starting to build up maybe some ritualistic behavior to where you're kind of priming yourself for a relapse, to where you might look at porn, you might masturbate, you might slip, go basically across the line that you're not going to be able to come back from. That's yellow light. And then red, of course, is if you relapse. Relapse, the way I look at it is we're on the road of recovery, right? So just because you look at porn or you masturbate, that doesn't make you a terrible person. That just means that, hey, you had a bump in the road, you took a detour. Let's get back on the road. Let's keep going. Like I just shared, 100 days sober. Before that, I was on about 8 months. I've had some longer streaks. I had like almost 2 years one time. And, then moments happen. It could just be like one day, one little moment, where you slip and you look at porn, you masturbate, and maybe these are lines in the sand. They are for me. Like my line in the sand that I've determined for loss of sobriety is when I actively look at porn, like video images, and then masturbate. That's like my red line. That means, hey, I got to start over. But when you start over, and this is like why I wanted to do this podcast, like I'm at 100 days right now, I feel fantastic. I feel like this 100 days has been so much better than previous 100 days that I've done before. I feel clean. I feel like I have energy. I feel fired up. I feel like things trajectory-wise are going really well. So that's like why I really wanted to focus on this today in this podcast and share this with you, is because if this is like your umpteenth time starting over, hey, been there, done that. I've started over 1,000,000 times. Maybe not that many, but hundreds of times I've started over to where I'm saying this is the last time I'm going to do it. But this is a great formula, is having your why, having accountability, community. We're going to go into the third step in a little bit, but this is a great formula to really get that good foundation for you. So speaking about accountability, right? Have an accountability partner. We're talking about fast check-ins. Where F is feeling, A is active commitments. S, I went on a little bit of a detour. That's sobriety, slips. So this is where you want to like really call things out. It could be really tiny things. It's going to go as far as you want it. So one thing that I challenge you with, you and your accountability partner, is really to like dig in, be honest. I mean, I've had things before, like when I'm talking to my brother, and it can be like the smallest little thing. Like, hey, I saw an attractive woman. I stared a little bit too long. I looked away. I didn't look back, but I still kind of didn't feel great about just ogling. I didn't really feel like, it was a Christian thing to do. It was a little bit lusty. And I'm checking that in. When you check that stuff in, it's a power. It gives you power. It gives you this accountability where you said, hey, I checked it in. I was honest about it. This wasn't something that I was really that proud of. And next time I'm going to do better. That's what it's all about. It's just about like improving, about being vulnerable, and having brotherhood, sisterhood with somebody else that you trust. It's huge. It's one of the most important things. And then you have the first T, so fast, F-A-S-T-T. First T is threats. So threats to your sobriety. Most of the time, for me at least, I'm talking about my sleep. I've been having a hard time sleeping. So typically like my sleep is like always number one. It also could be like stress from work. Maybe you had a stressful conversation with your significant other. There's like a myriad of different things, but it's basically threats to your sobriety. Like what has threatened you before with your sobriety, when maybe you've been on a streak and then you went off your streak. Typically for me, like my biggest threats is like when I'm really tired, when I'm feeling unmotivated, like maybe when I stop writing, stop podcasting, stop trying to work on my YouTube channel. Those things, like when my passions start to slip away, my relationships, I start to isolate, I kind of stop doing my active commitments. That's like when I'm getting into like a threatening position. So think about that on your end, like what threatens your sobriety. And then the last T, so you got threats, then tools to combat those threats. So like what are some tools that you can implement that can help combat that threat that you're talking about. So if it's sleep, what are things I can do tonight to get some good sleep? Maybe it's putting my phone in the other room. Maybe it's having some sleepy tea, which I love to drink. Maybe a little bit earlier in the night. Maybe it's like I get into bed at a certain time. Hey, I normally get in bed at 11 or 12. Let's get in bed at like 9:30 or 10. Once you start building those habits in and you start checking them in with somebody else, they start to take root, and then you start to see the benefits. I would suggest when you do your accountability and you have an accountability partner, I would suggest to start off, do it every day. Every day. Do it every day at a certain time. I like voice memos. I think that you can do it at your own time. Sorry, bump the camera there. But you can do it on your own time. But it just depends on, what kind of communication you like. But I typically think that like doing something voice to voice, even like FaceTime, I've done that before, super helpful. So that's like the biggest point I wanted to make with accountability is like have somebody in this journey with you. And then that ties into community. Like have a community of people, especially like if you can start off just like with one person, like a close friend, have them as accountability partner, great. But then start to expand out. Like if you have other friends, if you need to join groups, there's a free group online, Porn Addicts Anonymous. I haven't done it. My little brother has, and he's raved about it. Just said that it's really helped him out a ton. But there's groups you could pay for. Like I'm in a group right now with Vern Tomke, who's the Finding Traction host. And that group is called Band of Brothers. Really good group. I can put the link in the description. But we do a 52-week program. We do that every week. So every Thursday we meet up with each other. And that's been fantastic. It's a small group of guys, 4 other guys. So it's great. I love it. You can really talk through things with focus. And then we check in with each other too. So we do a variation of that fast check-in with each other every week. So that's nice. Other kind of ways you can connect with people, community. I have a therapist, so I've been doing therapy now for like 2 years. That's been really helpful for me. So that's a bi-weekly thing for me. Another sense of community, someone else I can talk to, someone else I can lean on and go through, not just like porn recovery, but just like past traumas, figuring things out. Where do I want my life to go? It's just good to have someone like that in your corner that you can talk to. And then the last thing for me, at least, an example is like I have a Bible study group. We meet every other Tuesday through Flatirons Church in Colorado, great church. And I've known these guys, most of them, for about 4 years now. And having a group of people that have similar faith to you, incredibly important. People that can pray for you, that you can pray for them. It's a great way to build community. And to build a community around this topic, which I think at least I've learned in men's group, like nobody still wants to talk about. But you can always be that person like me that can bring it up and really break that seal so that people can be vulnerable. Because I know a lot of Christians struggle with porn. Pastors struggle with porn. It's something that needs to be talked about, something that needs to be addressed, but in a way of empathy and love and support, right? Community and accountability. So went over accountability with you. And I would say in community, and I would say like accountability partners huge. Really quick, accountability software, Accountable to You is what I use, what I've used in the past. Covenant Eyes is another good one that I heard of, and I can put those links in the description as well. Those are 2 ones that come off the top of my head. I know there's a lot more, but those are good apps. And then I'd say for community, the best app, this is the one I love the most. It's called I Am Sober. Great app. You can track your sobriety down to the second. You can actually put multiple things that you're trying to be sober from in there. So right now I've got pornography, I've got masturbation, also have alcohol. I think I'm on day 83 right now. I'm not drinking. I wanted to do at least 90 days without alcohol to see how I felt. Feel a lot better, feel pretty clean minded and less sloppy, all that stuff. So that's been nice. But you can track your sobriety that way. And that's a great way to build community with others. There's thousands of people that use the app. People can post their wins. There's like a community page. People can ask questions. You can join groups. I have a group. If you're interested, it's called Road to Recovery. I'm on the app as Porn Free Millennial. So if you end up joining, send me a friend request. I'd be happy to add you to my group. And that's just like where like you can daily kind of track and see like where the group is with things. You can ask questions, get to know each other. I think it's a great way to build community. Another way, if you don't have many like face-to-face people you can talk with, great way to do it online is I Am Sober. I love that app. All right, so we've talked about your why. We've talked about accountability and community. Last thing that we're going to talk about is number 3, one day at a time. So this is more of like a mindset thing. So you've got your why, you've got your accountability, you have your community, right? A common pitfall, and I think I wrote about this in my Substack like 2 weeks ago. It's kind of like the tortoise and the hare. I think a lot of the times, like we want to be like the hare. Like we want to be that rabbit that just shoots ahead in the race. We want to get it over with. We want to get porn out of our lives for good. Well, this is a thing that's been in our lives for quite some time. I'm 32. I mean, this has been in my life for 2 decades, right? It takes a lot of deprogramming. It takes some time. Kind of gonna be more of a tortoise. And when you're the tortoise, it might sound bad at first, but I actually think there's a lot of benefit. When you're the tortoise, I think you actually are seeing things one day at a time. You're taking your recovery one day at a time. You're not jumping ahead and skipping things. I think that's why the hare kind of lost, kind of wore themselves out. They got kind of bored. They ended up burning themselves out. That's happened to me many times when I've, attempted to quit porn. But I really think that sustainability is being more like the tortoise. Taking things slow and steady wins the race, right? And taking things one day at a time. I've heard this quote before. It's not the best quote, but it's like, how do you eat an elephant? Like, who eats an elephant? I don't know who eats an elephant, but the quote is like, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time, right? If we just try to eat the whole elephant at once, it's not gonna happen. We're probably gonna choke, or we're gonna get too stuffed too quick and quit. Now, if you take it one bite at a time, you take your time. You don't quite put like a timetable on it. You just go one day at a time. You're going to eventually eat that elephant. And I think, like the elephant, I think porn is the elephant in our room, right? Like we have to confront it. We have to eat it, so to speak. And I think the best way to do it is to do it one day at a time, one bite at a time. Take a bite out of it one time a day. And I think what that helps us do, I think it makes like the recovery process a lot more like attainable in our minds. Like if you look ahead and you're like, oh my gosh, like how am I supposed to be like 10 years sober? It doesn't just happen, right? Like you have to do it like one step at a time, one day at a time, like one screw up at a time. Like you might fail, but if you're going to fail better the next time, right? That's a quote from Samuel Beckett, is fail better. We're going to fail, right? We're going to make mistakes. But if we take this one day at a time, we can learn from it and we can get back up on our feet. So I really think that mindset's really helped me out a lot. Like I said, I've been to 100 days before. This one seems different to me because I'm just truly taking it one day at a time. I'm not like really looking ahead to the next day. I'm not looking ahead to the next week. I'm not looking ahead to the next month. I'm literally just looking at each day at a time and saying, I'm going to be sober today. I'm committed. I'm pledging to be sober. That's one thing you can also do on the I Am Sober app, is make a daily pledge. That's typically something I'll do like right when I wake up, is I'll just say, hey, I'm going to be sober today. And that helps get me in that mindset where I'm just looking at, hey, if I can get through today, I can get through tomorrow. But I'm not going to focus on tomorrow yet. I'm going to focus on today, like what I can do today to not just like not look at porn, right? That's not what it's about. It's about living my life, living my life so it's fulfilled. And if I can focus on that, focus on living into my goals, living into my passions, my physical health, my spiritual health, my relationships, leaning into my active commitments every day, then odds are I'm going to have a porn-free day because I'm moving towards something. I'm not just avoiding something. I'm moving towards something, and I'm doing it small steps, one day at a time, one day at a time. And eventually, once you get there, at 100 days, you're going to look back and be like, wow, like that worked. Just taking it one day at a time. So it's a mindset thing. I think we have to set ourselves in that mindset to have strong recovery. If we just set a time date on it, it's not going to work. I want to be sober the rest of my life, but I'm not going to get there unless I'm doing it one day at a time. So couldn't say it enough. I'm going to say it one more time. One day at a time. All right. So those are your 3 keys. We've got number 1. We've got what's your why? Number 2, accountability and community. And number 3 is one day at a time. These are 3 keys to getting to 100 days of sobriety and continuing it in a healthy way. So I just wanted to leave you all with this. Really appreciate you listening. This kind of came up in a conversation I was having over the weekend. I thought it'd be something cool to share. So I think, when we're doing this work on ourselves, it's not easy, right? We got to kind of dig deep and really figure out like why, we've had this relationship with porn throughout our life. Like what's that problem that we're trying to solve? Like what's that trauma deep down inside that we're maybe trying to heal from or avoid, right? And when you're digging, it's not easy. It's kind of backbreaking work, right? Or if you're drilling for oil, I think oil is a good analogy to digging and kind of going through this pain, this trauma, because you're kind of bringing up a lot of things. You're bringing up those fumes that are inside of you. Now, oil, can be very corrosive. It can be pollutant. It can be dangerous and hazardous to us, right? And those fumes can be really dangerous when we're drilling. But on the flip side with oil, right, it's fuel. It's a resource. So if we can harness, that pain, harness that shame, harness that trauma in our lives while we're digging, we're kind of getting to the root of it, that's going to bring up that oil. That's going to bring up that resource. And if we can harness it right, it's going to change your life. It's going to change your journey in sobriety once you can really harness that resource. And it's like gold too. You're mining. We've all seen that picture, that person that's mining. There's 2 pictures, right? The person on top's mining. They'd turn around there and say, I give up. And if they would have hit just a few more times, like that gold or those diamonds would have been right there. And then you got on the bottom, that person's like, way further back, but they've got this look on their face that's just determined. They're going to keep going after it. And eventually they're going to get those diamonds. They're going to get that gold. They're going to get that resource. And I just challenge you as you go, just know that like the challenge itself is going to lead you to that big fuel resource, that thing that's going to change your life for the better. It's there. Just don't give up on it. Just know when you're digging and when it gets hard and you really feel like you're pushing yourself, like that's actually when you're doing it right. And you're really getting to the bottom of what that problem is. Because at the end of the day, this porn relationship that we have, it's to solve some sort of problem in our life. Something that developed early on or maybe later on in our lives, but we're trying to solve it with porn. And if we can really dig and find that out ourselves without porn in our life, that's when we can really unlock that power that we can use as fuel to propel ourselves. So I wanted to end on that. Other than that, guys, I've got a Substack. I've got a Medium account as well. Those are publications, Porn Free Millennial. I like to send things out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you're interested in that, go to Substack or Medium, and you can join my mailing list where you'll just get those instant updates right away. And then you can find me on X, so porn_free_ or at Colorado Mac 21. That's kind of like my main page. I also have a YouTube channel where I'm trying to upload some things about me living my RV life, living remote, working remote out of my RV and traveling. And then last but not least, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, let me know. Send me an email at pornfreemillennial@gmail.com. I'd be happy to meet with you. Free consultation, see what you're looking to do. One-on-one coaching right there. Give me an email, again, at pornfreemillennial@gmail.com. Or if you're watching this video on X, send me a DM. Or on YouTube, you can also email me as well. But with that being said, y'all, really appreciate you listening today. Take these 3 steps. Let me know what you think, if those are helpful to you. I'd really like to know. And spread the message. This is all about us on our road of recovery together and us fighting the good fight. So I hope you have a great night, great day, great week, some great recovery. And like always, keep fighting the good fight. Talk to you later. Bye.